look in the camera or look at you?
Look at me.
Okay.
The camera,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
All right. All
Okay.
right. Go back. I'll go back and forth.
Back and forth. Okay. All right, brother. Okay.
Michael, nice to be here.
Yeah. So what are you doing here in Philly?
We are on. I don't even. I've lost track of the days, but we're about in the middle of the Chicago to New York City and back circumcision crisis protests. Today we're here at Philadelphia City Hall.
All right. So how long are you going to be still on the road? Do you know?
Let's see. Today is. Give me some help on that. It's Thursday, isn't it?
Yes, Thursday.
You lose
October
track
6th.
on the road.
Right.
Our last protest will be 1 week from today. We'll be in a Chicago suburb 1 week from today. So it looks like we have about 7 more protests.
Okay. How is this region, or how's the city of Philadelphia in particular, in comparison to other cities that you've demonstrated in?
On this entire tour, we have noticed, and all of us have agreed, veterans of the road crew, we have all noticed a decreased hostility by the public toward us for these protests. Much less negative commentary from passersby and motorists. I mean, there's still some, but it's markedly decreased, and that's been true in Philadelphia today. I think I heard like I only recall hearing one drive-by jeer. I think someone said, get a life or get a job, or
right.
I don't know. And I always say get a conscience back to them.
Wow.
But there might have been, there's been a few people who shook their heads, and other people will not take our information cards. But we have handed out hundreds of information cards here in a little under 5 hours here in Philadelphia. Hundreds of it. We've got a big team out here, and some people already left. Earlier, Nikki Barnes was out here earlier. We've handed out hundreds of information cards, had dozens of conversations, very, very productive conversations, a lot of smiles and thumbs up, and the protests work. I tell people, if protests didn't work, dictators wouldn't hang protesters. So protests work. And the Bloodstained Men and all the other national organizations coast to coast that are working to spread the truth about circumcision, we're having an effect, a powerful effect. People are understanding that this is a human rights violation, and it's got no defense. Circumcision has absolutely no defense in a modern society. So it's going down. The circumcision rate is going down. Circumcision itself is collapsing, and Philadelphia here today is more evidence of that. Just a lot of positive interactions with people. 20 to 1. I mean, 20 positive. I mean, even more than that. I can't even put a number on it. We've had basically a handful of negative interactions, and those have just been a few muttered comments. Nothing. No one's. There haven't even been the usual guys that come by losing their temper and screaming at us, and it's just been incredibly mellow.
I know you're known for bringing up. Do you know the structure and function of the foreskin as a way to kind of shock somebody into thinking about those anatomical reasons? Are there reasons in particular that are kind of the key factor, the common variable for changing hearts and minds, whether it be ethical or aesthetic or cultural or?
Well, one really stands out, which is that when intact men have the choice to get circumcised as adults, they're not crazy. They don't go out and get circumcised. Intact, and that's around the world. The majority, overwhelming majority of men around the world are intact. In fact, it's the vast majority of circumcised men around the world are Muslims, and in Muslim nations where they do it for cultural reasons. Medical circumcision is almost non-existent around the world, and only found in the United States. Really, it's just really sad. But yes, the first fact or piece of evidence that you give people is that when men have a choice, they don't get circumcised. You have to force it on children, and it's the same with female circumcision. They force it on girls. They force it on boys and girls.
Have you had a lot of pushback from the medical community or individuals within the medical community on that rationale that it has medical benefits? And how do you address that?
The medical community that supports circumcision is by and large in hiding. They are not pushing back. They are basically hiding and hoping this issue will just. They don't know what to do. I mean, They are literally in hiding. They will not come out. This Dikema, who was on the AAP 2012 circumcision committee, that said the benefits outweigh the risks. Dikema is in hiding. He won't make any public statements about it. He's hiding behind the Australian quack. I'm not even going to use his name, but everyone knows who he is. The Australian quack who's calling for all the men in the world to be circumcised and saying that he's just saying crazy things. And everyone knows who I'm talking about. I'm not going to use his name. But the circumcision industry is in retreat. They're in hiding. They have no defense. And so they're not pushing back. They're just hoping that intactivism will go away, or enough time will pass where they can claim they were never in favor of circumcision. It's just an insane superstition that crept into American life, and it's on its way out. And they don't know what to do.
Do you think that knowing the history of circumcision, either in Western civilization or in America in particular, is important, or do you think that you can just reach people with the ethics or the sexual or the aesthetic or the medical, any of those?
That's a good question, because a lot of people are shocked when they find out that our founding fathers were not circumcised. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, all our founding fathers were intact men. So yes, the history definitely plays a role. What we can do on the streets is limited. We can't hand out a brochure that includes everything. We have links to all that information on our website. But yes, it's very important that when people dig into this issue, I mean, people have there's various degrees to which people want to research this issue. For some, it's just enough to see our protests and to know that it's wrong and that the vast majority of the world does not do this. For others, it's to become intactivists. They become outraged when they find out that horse and buggy doctors introduced circumcision to the United States as a punishment for adolescent boys caught masturbating. And people are shocked by that. And it's in the medical literature. I mean, doctors went on the record. It wasn't a secret then. It's a secret now. Our current crop of doctors doesn't want to talk about it. They're deeply ashamed of the history of circumcision in the United States, and they've inherited just a corrupt system.
So despite the historical origins in this country, you're not buying the current medical research or argument for, in terms of preventing.
Oh, everyone knows that's a crock of BS. Everyone knows it. Every serious person knows that's just basically a crock of BS. It's not even a fig leaf. It's not even a fig leaf. It's just something they can say rather than just appear to be speechless. It was all just rigged junk science, an experiment on African men that was rigged from the start, and the findings were just so phony and predetermined, and even their own findings were just so negligible and ludicrous that no one takes that argument seriously. That's why European doctors have condemned American doctors, and they looked at all that stuff and they said, no, it doesn't hold water. The European medical accused American doctors of being biased in favor of cultural circumcision, which was their polite way of saying that American doctors know that circumcision is basically superstitious ritual surgery, and they're inflicting it on our nation.
Now, do you get pushback from using the phrase genital mutilation? I know one of the signs has that. It's kind of, a lot of people, it's commonsensical that female genital mutilation is unethical and immoral. But when you use the phrase male genital mutilation, or when you equate it with circumcision, I see that a lot of people, it doesn't make sense to them. One woman today said, it makes sense for girls, but for boys, yeah, it just looks nasty. You got to do it. So it seems like people having trouble with the language.
Well, I probably use the phrase sexual mutilation more than I do genital mutilation. It is both. It's male genital mutilation, it's female genital mutilation, it's female and male sexual mutilation of children, boys and girls around the world. It goes deep into human history, further back than any written text even refers to it. You study it anthropologically; it goes way back. So, I don't hear much objection to using male genital mutilation. Yeah, I mean there are a few people, but we use the word circumcision on our signs because people immediately know what we're talking about. But it is male sexual mutilation.
And you're not against circumcision or any kind of genital augmentations, cosmetic procedures for adults, for 18 and up, just routine for infants.
If someone is foolish enough to sign up for that as an adult, if they ask me my opinion, I would tell them that's very, very foolish, and you know, I suspect that someone is pressuring you into it. But no, I mean, you're an adult, you can do what you want.
So how did you first get involved or interested in this topic anyway? It's pretty controversial, but it's also, for a lot of people, it's an obscure issue. A lot of people, this is the first they're even thinking about the issue of circumcision, just seeing your signs today.
Now there I'll have to refer you to James Lowen's interview with me because
Okay.
it's a long story. Well, not a long story, but James Lowen interviewed me at the 2012 AAP convention in New
Okay.
Orleans, and that is on his YouTube channel. A very easy way to find it is in the Google bar, type Brother K's story, and that's K''S. Brother K's story. You type that into the Google bar, and that will come right up, and that will answer that question and more about my past, and you'll see my reaction to the Bloodstained, which he interviewed me just 2 days after we had first worn the Bloodstains, before there was the Bloodstained Men organization. So that will give you a lot of insights into my past and into how I came to stand here on a corner in Philadelphia in October 2016.
The Bloodstain is for the pants that you wear that have the markings of where people's genitals would be bleeding.
Well, it's
from.
the perfect symbol. It's the perfect symbol. This stain represents the injury that I have underneath it. And as far as I know, there's no protest movement in history that has such a perfect symbol of that which it is protesting against. I didn't invent it. I didn't come up with it. But I recognized its power, and here we are.
Would you be satisfied with merely changing the hearts and minds of every person in this country so where it's essentially, in practice, obsolete, but circumcision is still technically legal on the books for men, even though it is? Or would you want to push for something like akin to the 1997 U.S. Code protection for girls under the age of 18?
Well, there's the theoretical answer to your question, and there's the practical answer to your question. The theoretical answer to your question is that there's no reason why girls should be protected from genital mutilation and leave boys out. Practically speaking, if circumcision ends with no legal injunction against it, I'm cool with that.
Right. Now I know, Jonathan.
And that's probably what's going to happen before there's a court case at some point in the future that determines that boys do in fact have legal rights under the female genital mutilation law, that it should apply to boys as well as girls.
Right.
And I think a Supreme Court someday will find that.
How soon do you see this cultural change occurring?
I see it happening right now.
Okay.
How soon will we be down to 10% or lower circumcision rate like Australia is? Circumcision was once an epidemic in Australia, just like it is in the United States. And the Australians, the Aussies, took it down in under 10 years. This is 2016. I think by 2030, that's about 14 years from now, I think by 2030, we will have seen a significant decline in baby circumcision in the United States and a significant increase in parental awareness of how much harm, damage, trauma it inflicts upon their baby, and they're gonna continue saying no and in growing numbers.
So in addition to looking up your interview, where else can people find information? What would you recommend the first thing people do if they have questions about circumcision? Where would they look?
If you have questions about circumcision, I would recommend 3 websites. Well, 4 websites: bloodstainedmen.org, yourwholebaby.org, intactamerica.org. I said 4, didn't I? Doctorsopposingcircumcision.org.
So there are doctors that are growing against
Yes.
vocal opposition to it.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, Brother K. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael.
You're making a mess of me.